Lorries with our reporter Simon Jenkins, who's been live in the West Sussex village of Barnham this morning, as people there say they've had enough of almost 100 lorries a day driving down the narrow lanes, partly because a haulage company has opened a depot there. So let's cross to Simon now. Morning, Simon.
Good morning, Neil.
Right, OK, now you've been hearing people about what it's actually like there. Just for those people just joining us, describe the width of the road that you're on.
Well, I took a bit of a stroll across the road in as scientific a way as I could, and I estimated it at being 4 paces, and, I'm about 5'9", 5'10", so I suppose that's sort of an average person's pace. So 4 paces across. On one side there's a drainage ditch, and there are passing places which have sort of been created by the traffic over the last year or so, and they're parts of the ditch which have been dug up and are extremely muddy and rutted, and so it's a very narrow lane, overhanging trees and traditional sort of brick walls on one side. The people living there they say it's got so bad, they've made a film about the traffic movements to lobby Arran District Council, and one of the residents, Jan Hulstead, told me she thinks it's a matter of time before there's an accident, and she says some people have even stopped going out because of the lorries.
And, Simon, we have been talking about that difficult balance between keeping the peace and quiet of the countryside and also keeping the local economy going.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an important point to make, isn't it? Because, we often decry the lack of jobs in the rural economy. And, of course, there are also some greenhouses there and companies which grow various plants and stuff. But this is about, I guess, the business that the people are talking about, the haulage business. And we spoke to the Campaign to Protect Rural England, and Stuart Meyer from there says rural traffic is important for business, but he doesn't think, in this case, the site is appropriate.
So you've been up to the haulage company, which is just along the road from where you are now?
Yes, it is. Yes, it's just up Lake Lane, just off Lake Lane, and I went up there and I door-knocked and said, is anybody going to speak to us? We've got a few points like to raise. I was told that there wouldn't be any interviews at all today, but I did hand over my BBC business card and said it would be really great if we could have a chat at some stage. So we hope to hear back from them. Arran District Council have also given us a statement as well, and they have confirmed that they've received a number of complaints from local residents. They've also received the DVD and the photographs. All these objections were put before the Development Control Committee. That met on June the 15th to consider the applications, and councillors at the moment on the committee deferred the application and asked planning officers to speak to the applicants to see if they could agree an alternative access route. And Simon, finally, I just thought, why doesn't the lorry go along the road in the different direction? Presumably that would just take it along someone else's front yard. Is that the problem? Yeah, absolutely. If you can imagine this lane being about 2 miles long, so you drive along it, and before you get to the turning for where the haulage company is, there are about 6 properties. Those ladies we've just heard from live there. That's the way they're going at the moment. If, for example, they were to come out of their haulage company and turn right, they would then pass around 40 properties, and then a narrow junction at the end. There you go. That's the problem, really. There's a narrow lane with houses all along it, and, as I say, the entrance to where the haulage company is pretty much in the middle. Simon, thank you. It does sound quite a parochial story on one level, and yet I suspect there are examples of this all over Sussex, of big lorries in rural areas, for businesses which some makers say are absolutely suitable and provide employment, and others will say is totally not. So I suspect there's a degree of empathy with those people in Barnham.
Sussex with Neil Pringle.
We have been talking also about traffic in rural villages in Sussex, and people in Barnham saying that the village isn't suitable there for the amount of lorries driving through. The trucks collect vegetables from a garden nursery, and villagers say too many drive through each day. Now they've got a haulage firm which seems to have moved in on the lane as well. They say it's made things much worse. But another village in Sussex, which we've covered in the past, had problems with traffic and heavier lorries. Alfriston. Earlier in the year, we reported how they were putting water-filled barriers in to stop cars and lorries mounting the pavement. Let's see how that's going. June is on the line. June Goodfield. Hello, June.
Hello, Neil. Good morning.
Have those barriers worked?
Yes and no. What an ambiguous answer. Neil, basically our problem was that we have, at the narrowest part of the high street, the biggest kink in the road. And this is quite maddening, and it is very difficult for drivers to get past without driving on the pavement, which under the Road Traffic Act of 1988 is actually a criminal offence. So the first thing that East Sussex County Council, in collaboration with SAFE and the Alfriston Parish Council, tried to do was to see if waterfowl barriers on the edge of the pavement, combined with a sign saying "give way," would be effective and getting drivers to go down in single file, one at a time, through this very narrow band. Within about 1 hour of their going in, I think everybody who was in attendance that day agreed that it simply did not work, because you can't see round the corner to give way. And so the barriers came out within about 3 days because people met in the middle of the road and they couldn't go on the pavement because the barriers wouldn't let them. And shall we say there was a little bit of disturbance. They weren't very happy about this.
You back up, no, you back up, no.
How do you...
Right,
exactly.
okay, I get it.
So what happened, the barriers went away, but the signs at the moment have remained saying "give way" in the middle of the road. And it's exactly the same situation. With the best will in the world at that point, two drivers can come up, and in the last 3 or 4 days, we've had exactly the same incident, the same problems. They meet each other in the middle of the road. They said, the sign says "you back up," and the other person says the sign "you back up," and so nobody backs up until it gets sorted out.
You did start off by saying yes and no, like there had been some sort of improvement. Is it very, very little, this improvement?
Well, people did try. I mean,
I see. Right.
People did try. One of the remarkable things that has happened is that the bus companies have told their drivers they must not drive on the pavement. Both the 126 and the community bus do not drive now on the pavement. They just wait for it to sort out. And if people do wait for it to sort out, to an extent it does sort out. But we do have a very serious difficulty here.
Right, okay. And do you still get very big lorries through the village?
No, nothing like the extent we've done. The police have done a wonderful job here, so has our lorry watch scheme, nothing like it. Though yesterday, I have to say, there was a huge lorry which came and was making a delivery which was totally legitimate. And it parked on the pavement and it did its delivery, and then it didn't go away again. So I went and had what I hoped was a polite word with the driver, and they were busy eating their lunch in the cab in the middle.
Nice.
In the middle.
Did you knock on and you say, "Excuse me, are you mad?"
Well, I didn't put it quite like that. I said, "Excuse me, but we do have a difficulty here with the narrowness. I wonder, and you are holding up the traffic. I wonder if you could move on." And they said, "No, we couldn't, because we've run out of our time and we're entitled to have our lunch break." And so they stopped exactly where they were. And I bet if they'd stopped outside Buckingham Palace to have their lunch break, they would have moved on fairly quickly. So I put a telephone call into Manchester, where the firm was, and they moved on.
Right, well...
I think they had their lunch break on the top of Hindover Hill with a much better view.
June, thanks very much indeed. Nice to get the update from Alfriston there. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
20 minutes to 9 at BBC Sussex. So we'll be...